Hello and good morning. I welcome you all in our today's lecture. So today we are going to start a new topic. As you can see on the screen, we're going to talk about Socrates. About Socrates, the interesting thing is that he's the widely read and also he's discussed and almost, it's not only the part of the philosophy, even outside this domain of philosophy, we keep talking about it and usually we quote about Socrates in our day-to-day life. So we have lots of quotations about Socrates, especially the most famous one or oft quoted one, know thyself. So that means know yourself. So we try to mention it on different occasions. And interesting thing about Socrates is that he is a philosopher and he is considered to be the most important philosophers, especially in the world of philosophy and also in the Western philosophy. But thing is that we haven't found a single written text that was, written by Socrates. Maybe he wrote it, but nothing survived. The only thing that we came to know about him from his disciples' writings, especially from Plato and some of the subsequent philosophers, they quoted about his work in their work, but directly we didn't get any kind of text that is written by Socrates. And that's why we find that there are lots of things sometimes which is very contradictory and confusing and conflicting about his sayings, about his writings, about his philosophy, since there is nothing written by him and nothing actually exists at this time. And that's why he is considered to be one of the most inscrutable and also very much enigmatic. That means Socrates himself is an enigma to the philosophers and to the educators or to the students. Because about his work, we didn't get anything firsthand from him. From Socrates himself. Only thing that we came to know about him from the writings of the later philosophers. Now, today we are going to learn something about Socrates. Now, let me jump to the next slide. Okay. Now, this is the first slide. Here you can see Socrates was a hugely important Greek philosopher from the classical period, often known as Socratic period in his honor. Unlike most of the pre-Socratic philosophers who came before him, who were much more interested in establishing how the world works, Socrates was most concerned with how people should behave, and so was perhaps the first major philosopher of ethics. Already we have come to know about the pre-Socratic philosophers and their work, and we have seen that how they tried to explain the natural phenomena of the physical world by the using of nature, observation, and also some kind of scientific methods. So they were more concerned about the world, the cosmos, the universe. But when actually we come to Socrates, we will find that actually he is more interested in man himself. He is more interested in human, and especially how people should behave. That's actually, you can see that he is working with people, working with man, and he tries to, and he tried to, infuse knowledge into the mind of the people. And as you know, and we'll talk about it, later on, that we call Socratic method, or in another way, we can also call it the Socratic irony. That was a method that was invented by Socrates to bring people, to the realm of knowledge. So it's a kind of asking questions and then finding answers kind of technique. But that is a different kinds of way, the way actually he did it. That was quite, you can say, very much useful, and it is full of rhetoric, that means the art of speech, and also it's full of logic. So that is the basic difference between the pre-Socratic philosophers and Socrates himself, that his main concern was human, while at the same time, the pre-Socratic philosophers, their main concern was the universe, the cosmos, the nature. Now, this is a very, very nice quotation. It's by Socrates himself. It says that worthless people live only to eat and drink. People of worth eat and drink only to live. So the meaning in Bengali is it's like this, that worthless people live only to eat and drink. That means uh, অযোগ্য বা মূল্যহীন মানুষগুলো তারা কি করে, তারা শুধু বাঁচে হচ্ছে খাবারের জন্য এবং পান করবার জন্য। আর যে সকল মানুষের মূল্য আছে বা যাদের, বা আমরা এখানে জ্ঞানী বলতে পারি আর কি, যে বা কিংবা যারা জ্ঞানী ব্যক্তি তারা কি করে? তারা বাঁচার জন্য খায়। আর অনেকে আছে কি যারা খাওয়ার জন্য বাঁচে। Now, here in this slide, an enigmatic figure known to use only through other people's accounts. That I've mentioned it at the very beginning of our today's lecture. That he's enigmatic in that sense because we didn't come to know about anything. I mean, there is no specific writing that is written by Socrates, so nothing survived. And he's credited as one of the founders of Western philosophy. So you see, but there is nothing written by him, not a single book or not a single page found, or that was written by Socrates. But still, you see, he is the founder. He is considered to be one of the founders of Western philosophy. So that's why it's very enigmatic and interesting indeed at the same time. He is considered by some as a very antithesis of the sophists of his day, who claimed to have knowledge, which they could transmit to others, often for payment, arguing instead that knowledge should be pursued for its own sake, even if one could never fully possess it. You see, he's the very antithesis. Sometimes it says that at that time, when Socrates was there, during his time, you see, the sophists, we talked about the sophism and sophists. There's a pre-Socratic philosophers, a school of philosophy, and these people, especially, they used different kinds of arguments, logics, or rhetoric, the art of speech, to convince people and to teach people. And as you can remember, I told you that they are the first kind of philosophers or people that you can say they took money to teach people. And you see, who claim to have knowledge which they could transmit to others. So you see, these sophists, they thought that they have knowledge and they can transmit those knowledge to others. I mean, see that knowledge should be pursued for its own sake. So even if one could never fully possess it, but you can see the Socrates actually, he had a different perspective about knowledge, that you have to earn knowledge for your own sake. It's not about money or it's not about fame, but you have to learn it because you have to know yourself. That's why knowledge is important. This is another quotation by Socrates, that it says, life without experience and sufferings is not life. That means in your life, if you don't have sufferings and if you don't have any experience, then you simply can't call it a life. So you must have experience and you must suffer in the life to call it a life. Now, here in this slide, he is saying that, you can see, it says that he made important and lasting contributions in the fields of ethics, epistemology, and logic, and particularly in methodology of philosophy. His Socratic method, this is another name, Elankas. His method is called Socratic method, that I've already mentioned at the very beginning of this lecture, and we'll have a separate discussion about Socratic method in one of our lectures, if God permits, and also we'll explain this Elankas or Socratic method there. So, see, he contributed in the fields of ethics, epistemology, and logic. So, ethics, you understand, is epistemology, deals with knowledge, and logic, you understand what is logic. So, he actually contributed in these three specific fields of philosophy. And his views were instrumental in the development of many of the major philosophical movements and schools which came after him, including Platonism and the New Platonism and Aristotelianism. It gave rise to Cynicism, Stoicism, and Hedonism. So you see, the later philosophical movements, all this Platonism, Neoplatonism or Aristotelianism, Cynicism, Stoicism, Hedonism, so all these philosophical movements and the philosophers from these movements, they were highly influenced by Socrates' methods and Socrates' philosophy, his works. This is another quotation by Socrates. It says that strong minds discuss ideas, average minds discuss events, weak minds discuss people. So this is very interesting. Do you understand what does it say? Rajul, can you explain it? Rajul, can you hear me?
Yes, sir.
Can you explain this quotation for your friends?
স্যার এখানে হিউম্যান মাইন্ড সম্পর্কে স্যার বলছে এবং স্যার যারা আইডিয়াস নিয়ে স্যার মানে করে অথবা যারা ফিলোসফার বলতে পারি অথবা যারা গবেষণা করে বিভিন্ন ওদেরকে স্যার স্ট্রং মাইন্ড বলা হচ্ছে স্যার। আর এখানে যারা উইক মাইন্ড যারা সমালোচনা করে আর কি, স্বাভাবিকভাবে যেটা বলতেছে, এদেরকে বলছে উইক মাইন্ড, এদের কোনো কাজ নেই, এটা শুধু জাস্ট সমালোচনা করে।
You're absolutely right. There is people who have strong minds. They will think about ideas. They will think about different new things. They are innovative. So that means they are knowledgeable persons. So they will pursue knowledge and they will talk about ideas. And average minds people, they will discuss events, what is happening around. So all the time they will keep talking about those things. And weak minds, they will discuss people. That means they will criticize people. They will backbite people instead of doing or generating ideas or instead of discussing events. So these are very nice quotations. Now, his life. Socrates was born, as far as we know, in Athens around 469 BC. Our knowledge of his life is sketchy and derives mainly from three contemporary sources. So you see, his life is very sketchy, means we don't have any specific information about his life. So that's why it's very sketchy. আমরা তার জীবন সম্পর্কে ঠিক এক্স্যাক্টলি কিছু জানি না। আমরা তিনটা ডিফারেন্ট সোর্স আছে কন্টেম্পোরারি, সমসাময়িক তিনটা সোর্স থেকে আমরা তার জীবন সম্পর্কে জানতে পারি। সেখান থেকে একটা আইডিয়া গুলো জড়ো করে সক্রেটিসের লাইফ সম্পর্কে একটা ধারণা করা হচ্ছে, এবং সেই সাথে আমরা যে প্লেটোর যে কাজ আছে এবং আমরা জানি যে সক্রেটিসের স্টুডেন্ট ছিল হচ্ছে প্লেটো। তো প্লেটোর কাছ থেকে আমরা শিক্ষক সক্রেটিস সম্পর্কে জানতে পারি। So what are these three sources? First is dialogues of Plato. So dialogues, these are the books written by Plato. So from there we can come to know about his teacher Socrates, and also from Xenophon and the plays of Aristophanes. Aristophanes, he is a very famous Greek playwright, or you can say he's an author, and he's very famous. Aristophanes' plays, he also in his plays mentioned through his characters several times. He mentioned about Socrates. He mentioned Socrates in his plays. So these three sources from where actually we could come to know about Socrates. According to Plato, Socrates' father was Sophronius, a sculptor and stonemason, and his mother was, it's very difficult to pronounce, but she was a midwife. I hope that you understand a sculptor and a stonemason. ওনার বাবা ছিলেন ভাস্কর, তিনি ভাস্কর্য তৈরি করতেন, পাথর কেটে কেটে যে মূর্তি বা বিভিন্ন জিনিস তৈরি করা বা বিল্ডিং এর বিভিন্ন ডিজাইন তৈরি করা সেগুলো করতেন। স্টোন মেজন মানে যিনি পাথর নিয়ে কাজ করেন। আর ওনার মা ছিলেন এ মিডওয়াইফ, বাংলাতে ধাত্রী বলে, আমি জানি না এটা তোমরা বুঝতে পারছো না। ইউ আন্ডারস্ট্যান্ড মিডওয়াইফ, রাইট? Girls, do you know what does it mean midwife?
নার্স টাইপের কিছু, স্যার নার্স টাইপের।
হ্যাঁ, নার্সই, ওই যারা বাচ্চা কাচ্চা অবশ্যই হেল্প করেন মূলত, তাদেরকে গ্রামে যেটাকে ধাত্রী বলে আর কি। তখন তো আর নার্স বা ডাক্তার ছিল না, তার বাড়ি বাড়ি গিয়ে সন্তান সম্ভব যে নারী থাকতেন যাদের বাচ্চা হবে, ওনারা তাদেরকে হেল্প করতেন। এখন ডাক্তার
বলে স্যার,
আমি জানি না এটা বাংলাটা এর থেকে ভালো বাংলা ভাষা বলতে পারছি না।
দাইমা বলে স্যার।
Oh yes, thank you Masood, thank you. দাইমা বলে, exactly, yes. All right. Now, in the next paragraph, it says that his family was respectable in descent, but humble in means. I mean, he is from a very good family background. You see that they are respectable and they are humble. Humble in means they are not that much, I mean, affluent. They were respectable. সমাজে তাদের একটা সম্মান ছিল। He happens to have had no more than the ordinary Greek education, reading, writing, gymnastics, and music, and later geometry and astronomy, before devoting his time almost completely to intellectual interests. So you see, he was educated, and he got education in reading, writing, gymnastics, music, geometry, and astronomy. তিনি এই সাবজেক্টগুলো তাকে শিক্ষা দেওয়া হয়েছিল পারিবারিকভাবে, তিনি এগুলো পড়েছেন। But later on, actually, this intellectual interest, he didn't become anything like his father or any other profession. He didn't choose any other profession, but his main interest was to pursue knowledge or intellect. This is one of the very famous, you can say, the quotations and oft quoted. I hope you're going to like it. That's for sure. See the quotation, it says that the unexamined life is not worth living. The unexamined life is not worth living. Nisha, are you with us? Nisha? Nisha, can you hear me? Is Nisha there in the class? Nisha or Nishi, I don't know, I confused them.
Sir, Nishi is here.
Okay, Nishi, can you explain it?
Sir, there is no examination or uh, there, uh, there is no worth of living in this world.
Okay, all right. Anyone else? Dil Mushrat Mim, can you explain it? What does it mean? The unexamined life is not worth living. Dil Mushrat Mim, are you here? Masum, if she doesn't respond, mark her absent. Okay, Masum? If Dil
Yes, sir.
Mushrat Mim, if she doesn't respond, then mark her absent. That means she's not with us. She just took the access and then she left. I'll take it in that way. Bushra. Bushra, can you
Yes,
explain
sir.
this? Explain it. The unexamined life is not worth living. Explain it.
Sir, unexamined life.
What is it?
Sir, pardon us.
Gausul Azam, can you say it? Can you explain it? What does it mean?
No, sir.
Well, sir. Could you please explain this? You can't?
Sir,
Yes?
I think here unexamined means the life which has no problem, the difficulties which we overcome. Here, this is marked as an exam, and everyone's in everyone's life there is so many problems, but we have to overcome on this by our deeds, by our actions, and if there is no exam or difficulties in our life, we will, our life is not worth living. I think it.
Okay, you're very close. You're very close, but I need more specific. Who can help me? Maury, can you give it a try? Maury,
Yes, sir.
try it. Explain it.
Sir, the life which is don't go through many difficulties, or the life which don't go through many examination or experience, that is not worth living.
You're very close. Thank you. Raihan,
Sir.
explain it.
স্যার এখানে বলছে যে ওই যে মানে মানে
Ryan, can you try it in English? Because all
sorry
of
sir.
them, they tried it in English. So just try to explain it in English.
A man or person মানে who wakes up in each day and travel to office and in his office goes to bed watching TV in his life মানে which is miserable এসে মানে don't মানে সে একটা নির্বোধ আর কি
Okay. Is that all?
Such kind of life is not providing any value to myself, which leads a life which is not worth living.
Okay. Shamin Sultana.
Yes, sir.
Explain it.
Sorry, sir, I can't.
Sir, can I explain it?
What's the name?
Sir, Lima.
Okay, Lima, please go ahead.
Sir, if we examine our life, that we can find what is the source of our sufferings, then the new hope for living will be revealed then. So that will be the old living. And if we don't examine our life, so we cannot find any source of sufferings of our life. So that will be unearthly living.
Okay. Now I'd like to give another chance to Riazul. Riazul, can you explain it?
Yes, sir.
Yes, go on.
Sir, I think, sir, here Socrates can express the idea that our usual doing, what every day we do, that every work behind every work there is a purpose. So we should find the purpose of life, our purpose of activity, our purpose of all doing, and such a single point of work. So that should be researched, that should be analyzed to our mind, and sir, I think so, sir.
Yes, you're very close. Absolutely right. So you see, unexamined life, that means if you take everything for granted, the way actually you're leading your life, I think Ryan actually, he was going to give you some example, but I got the point, though he couldn't finish it properly. But in one sense, he is right. You're just living your life and you don't ask any question and you think that this is life, that's it. So you don't think about the life, its purpose, and you don't examine anything, you don't investigate into that particular thing, particular life, or any issue of life. So that is not worth living. That means when actually you want to examine everything, that means you try to learn, you try to increase your knowledge. Because if your life is unexamined, that means you did nothing. You haven't explored the different aspects of your life. So we cannot take our life as it is, or we cannot take everything for granted. We need to ask questions. So that's why he's saying that the unexamined life is not worth living. It's a very nice quotation, and you will find it. And also, it's one of the main ingredients of his philosophy. Now, he's usually described as unattractive in appearance and short in stature, and he apparently rarely wished or changed his clothes. But he did nevertheless marry Xantippe, a woman much younger than he and renowned for her sweetness. I mean, Socrates justifies his marriage on the grounds that a horse trainer needs to hone his skills on the most spirited animals. I mean, I'm not going for that kind of explanation because it sounds very anti-feminist. But what I will do that, you just look at this. I mean, he was very unattractive in appearance, and he was short in stature. That means he was not that much tall, and he apparently rarely washed or changed his clothes. So usually he didn't change his clothes. I mean, he didn't have that much clothes. That's the thing. She bore for him 3 sons. That means we are talking about his wife Xantippe, and these are the names of his sons. And the interesting thing is that not a single of his sons, actually, they were, I mean, as famous as Socrates, or they were not that much knowledgeable, just like their father. And they didn't pursue knowledge in the way actually Socrates, actually, he used to think about life and knowledge. So this is truly interesting, and sometimes maybe you can say it's a sad part of the story that sons didn't get anything from their father. But in any way, one of his sons will come later that he wrote a book on his father, and from his account also we came to know about his fathers. And people say that their father's trial and death, and according to Aristotle, they turned out unremarkable, silly, and dull. That means these sons, Lamprocles, and also another one is Sophroniscus and Menexenus. So all his 3 sons, they were unremarkable, silly, and dull. That means they were not as intelligent, or just, you can say, the knowledge seeker, just like his father, like their father. They're not like this. So it is known for sure who his teachers were, but he seems to have been acquainted with the doctrines of Parmenides, Heraclitus, and Anaxagoras. So he was very familiar with the philosophies or teachings of these people. Plato recorded the fact that Socrates met Xenophila and Parmenides on their trip to Athens, probably in about 450 BC. So Plato said, he recorded in his book that Socrates met Xenophila and Parmenides, these 2 famous philosophers. They were pre-Socratic philosophers. So he met them while actually he was going to Athens. So on their trip to Athens, he met these philosophers, probably in about 450 BC. Other influences which have been mentioned include a rhetorician named Prodicus, a student of Anaxagoras called Archelaus, and 2 women. One is Diotima, a witch and priestess from Mantinea, who taught him all about eros or love, and another one is Asphasia, the mistress of the Greek statesman Pericles, who taught him the art of funeral orations. So just think, these are very true, interesting information about his education. So he met all these philosophers, and also he met these 2 women. So these 2 women, they left some you can say, some impression on him, and he took some knowledge from these women. But that wasn't very formal education, that we cannot say that, but he took some idea from this woman. For example, from Diotima, and she was a witch and priestess. That means she was a different kind of woman, not regular woman. She taught him eros or love. So she taught him all about love. What is love? So he took some knowledge about love from this woman, and from Aspasia, he learned the funeral orations. Funeral orations, these orations, you can also see it in present days, especially when somebody dies in the Western world. You can find that one of his friends or acquaintances, or maybe one of his family members, they will go to the dais. They will be invited to the dais, and they will go to the dais and they will say something about the dead person. And that is very, you can say, very eloquently they try to do it, and they try to attract the people's attention. They always try to, put something good, in their words about the dead person. So this is funeral oration. অর্থাৎ মৃত কোনো জায়গায় কোনো মারা গেলে সেইখানে কিভাবে ওই সে অন্ত্যেষ্টিক্রিয়ার সময় কিভাবে বিশেষভাবে বক্তৃতা দিতে হয় তার একটা আর্ট আছে। তিনি এই পেরিক্লাস নামে মহিলার কাছ থেকে তিনি সেই টেকনিকটা, সেই আর্টটা বা সেই ওরাটরিটা শিখেছেন। এই ওরাটরিটা কেমন ওরাটরি? অন্ত্যেষ্টিক্রিয়াতে বা মৃত ব্যক্তি, আমরা যেটাকে বলি যে সকালের সময় যে বক্তৃতা হয় এই মৃত ব্যক্তির পক্ষ থেকে বা তাকে উদ্দেশ্য করে, সেই টেকনিক বা সেই ওরাটরি বা সেই স্পিচ দেওয়ার টেকনিকটা তিনি এই মহিলার কাছে শিখেছিলেন। Now this is another quotation. My advice to you is get married. If you find a good wife, you'll be happy. If not, you will become a philosopher. This is very interesting, isn't it? Do you understand it? What does it say? It's very funny and ironic.
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
He says, my advice to you is to get married. উনি বলছে যে আমার উপদেশ, তোমরা বিয়ে করো, যদি ভালো বউ পাও তাহলে তোমরা সুখী হবে, আর যদি বউ ভালো না হয় তাহলে তুমি কি হবে?
Philosopher, দার্শনিক.
Okay. So all the philosophers, we can say they didn't have a good wife, right?
So
Yes,
only
sir.
wife, why not the other one?
Actually, this is his expression, but I don't go with this. Socrates বলেছে we have to buy this. এটা আমার নিয়ে নিতে হবে এমন কোনো কিছু না। Actually, his wife Didnt. The problem is that Socrates actually he wasn't mindful about his family life. রাস্তায় ঘুরে ঘুরে বেরিয়েছেন, একে প্রশ্ন করেন, ওকে জ্ঞান দেন, এই করে বেরিয়েছেন। তিনি ফ্যামিলিতে কিন্তু তেমন একটা টেক কেয়ার করেন নাই। কারণ Didnt তার ওয়াইফকে একা তার ফ্যামিলিটাকে সামলাতে হয়েছে, কারণ তার সলিড কোনো ইনকামও ছিল না, বোঝা যায়। সক্রেটিসরা তো তাও মানুষকে জ্ঞান বিতরণ করে তার বিনিময়ে টাকা পয়সা নিত, কিন্তু সক্রেটিস তো তাও নিতেন। বুঝতে পারছো কি বলছি?
Yes, sir.
তো স্বাভাবিকভাবেই তার ওয়াইফ তো তার উপর খেপে থাকবে না, কারণ তার তো সংসার চালাতে হতো, তার সংসার চালানোর চিন্তা করতে হতো। উনি তো মানুষের জ্ঞান দেবেন কিভাবে ফিলসফি নিয়ে কাজ করবেন, এইসব নিয়ে উনি কাজ করেছেন। সো দ্যাটস হি ডিডন্ট থিংক অ্যাবাউট হিজ ফ্যামিলি। এরকম একটা সক্রেটিসের সম্পর্কে একটা কথা আছে, জাস্ট লাইক এ জোক। একদিন এরকম বাড়িতে গেছেন, বাড়িতে যাওয়ার পর অনেক চিৎকার চেঁচামেচি করেছেন, এক পর্যায়ে সক্রেটিস তো তেমন, তার তো কোনো ভাবলেশ হয় না এইসব কোনো কিছুতেই। তো একটা পর্যায়ে সে কি করেছে, তার ওয়াইফ রাগ করে ওই হাতের পানির একটা পাত্র ছিল, সেই পানির পাত্র থেকে পানি তার মাথায় ঢেলে দিয়েছে। তো তখন সক্রেটিস বললেন যে আমি জানতাম যে মেঘ গর্জন করবার পরেই বৃষ্টি নামে।
এটা শুনেছিলাম।
রিয়েল লাইফ এক্সপেরিয়েন্স, যে আকাশে অনেক মেঘ থাকলে গর্জন হলে এরপরে বৃষ্টি নামে। তো সেভাবে তার ওয়াইফ চিৎকার চেঁচামেচি করেছে, তার মাথায় পানি ঢেলে দিয়েছে। সো হি টুক ইট ইন দ্যাট ওয়ে। সো এনালজিটা তিনি এইভাবে দিয়েছেন। সো অনেকে জানতে পেরে এই বিষয়টা তোমরা খুলে দেখতে পাবে, এটা মানে হচ্ছে ঝগড়াটে নারী। এটা এখন এই শব্দটা হিসেবে চলে আসছে, বাট পার্সোনালি আই ডিডন্ট লাইক ইট। কারণ সে অন্যকে জ্ঞান বিতরণ করবে কিন্তু ফ্যামিলি লাইফ নিয়ে সেটা কেয়ার করবে না, সেখানে ঘরের মানুষটা সাফার করবে। and then afterwards I will come with this kind of philosophical quotation that my advice to you is get married. If you find a good wife, you'll be happy. If not, you'll become a philosopher. Personally, I don't like this kind of thing. Anyway, but that's an interesting quotation. In some cases, that's very useful. In any way, now next, it is not clear how Socrates earned a living. Some sources suggest that he continued the profession of stonemasonry from his father. He apparently served for a time as a member of the Senate of Athens, and he served and reportedly distinguished himself in the Athenian army during 3 campaigns. So these are the 3 different places where actually they were having some kind of war at the time in Athens with another country at that time. And the people say that maybe actually he participated in that war, and as a part of the army he earned money. যুদ্ধে গিয়েছিলেন এবং যুদ্ধ হিসেবে আর্মির অংশ হিসেবে ছিলেন, তো সেই হিসেবে কিছু টাকা পয়সা আর্ন করেছিলেন। আবার অন্য একটা জায়গাতে বলা হচ্ছে হয়তো বা তিনি তার বাবা স্টোন মেশিনারি, মানে যে পাথর নিয়ে যে কাজ করে, আমি জানি না এটা বাংলাটা ঠিক কি আসা উচিত, যারা পাথর কাটে পাথর ভাঙে এরকম ব্যাপার আছে মেশিনারি, বা সেগুলোকে ডিজাইন করে কিছু তৈরি করে। তো সেই মেশিনের কাজটাও তিনি হয়তো করেছিলেন, তার বাবা পেশায় কিছুদিনের জন্য করেছিলেন বলে ধারণা করা, অথবা তিনি যুদ্ধেও গিয়েছিলেন এবং আর্মি হিসেবে সেখান থেকে কিছু উপার্জন করেছেন, এরকম কিছু ধারণা করা হয়ে থাকে। But there is nothing, I mean, that much reliable, I mean, about his income source. We couldn't come to know about anything. Now, however, most texts seem to indicate that Socrates didn't work. You see, this is the truth. Most texts seem to indicate that Socrates didn't work. So maybe he didn't work, devoting himself solely to discussing philosophy in the squares of Athens. Squares of Athens means in different places of Athens. Athens could be Rajdhanir motoi bolte pare, এবং one of the best cities at that time. So he went to I mean different places in Athens, all the crowded places, and also where actually he could find people and he could talk to people. So he would go to those places and then he will start asking them questions. I mean, he would start using a Socratic method. I mean, he will start a dialectical dialogue. Now, so he didn't earn anything in that sense. So using a method now known as the Socratic method or Socratic dialogue or dialectic, he grew famous for drawing forth knowledge from his students by pursuing a series of questions and examining the implications of their answers. Okay, so you see, he would start asking questions and then he will try to answer a series of questions. It's not a single question. So one question, then that will entail another question. For example, maybe Socrates would ask someone a question like, he will say, what is good and what is bad? Now, if that person says that the thing that is liked by the god, that is good, and the thing that is that is disliked by the god, that is bad. So at that time in Greece, you know, they believed in these gods and goddesses. It's not only one god or one goddess. There were many gods and goddesses. So they believed in many gods and goddesses. So if Socrates asked you that kind of question, and if you answer it in this way, that there is what is good to God, that is good. I mean, what is liked by the God, that is good. What is disliked by the God, that is bad. Now, then problem is that there are many gods and goddesses. So in that case, all these gods, so every god, they have their own good and own bad. So when all these and in most cases, most of these gods, they will differ in the definition of what is good or what is bad. এক একটা দেবতার কাছে এক একটা বিষয় ভালো, একজনের কাছে যেটা ভালো আরেক দেবতার কাছে সেটা খারাপ। তোমরা কি বুঝতে পারছো বিষয়টা?
Yes, sir.
আমি সক্রেটিকের ডায়ালেকটিকটা বা তার টেকনিকটা করে একটু বোঝানোর চেষ্টা করছি। তিনি প্রশ্ন করছেন যে আচ্ছা কোনটা ভালো কোনটা খারাপ বলো তো। তো কেউ উত্তর দিল সৃষ্টিকর্তার কাছে যেটা পছন্দনীয় সেটা হচ্ছে ভালো, আর সৃষ্টিকর্তার কাছে যেটা অপছন্দনীয় সেটা হচ্ছে খারাপ। এ পর্যন্ত বোঝা গেছে আমার কথাটা?
জি স্যার।
আর এর মধ্যে আরেকটা ইস্যু হচ্ছে যে সেই সময় তো অনেকগুলো গডস এন্ড গডেসেস ছিল, একটা গড ছিল না, একটা গডেস ছিল, অনেকগুলো ছিল। তাহলে তাই যদি হয় তখন এক একটা গডের কাছে আবার এক একটা ভালো একটা খারাপ। আমরা দেখেছি যে জিউসের সাথে তার ভাইয়ের দ্বন্দ্ব, আমরা দেখেছি যে গডের সাথে ডেমি গডদের একটা দ্বন্দ্ব চলছে, আবার অ্যাপোলোর সাথে তোমার দেখা যায় যে ডায়োনিসাস তার দ্বন্দ্ব চলছে, অ্যাপোলোর সাথে দেখা যায় হেরার দ্বন্দ্ব চলছে, অ্যাপোলোর সাথে অ্যাথেনার দ্বন্দ্ব চলছে। এক একজনের সাথে এক একজনের সমস্যা এবং সবাই সকলে বিশ্বাস করছে। And what is happening then? The worshippers or devotees of these gods and goddesses. For example, if one devotes or worships Athena, he or she will not worship Apollo. And people who goes to the Apollo's temple, they will not go to the Athena's temple. বুঝতে পারছো কি বলছি? একজন যদি অ্যাপোলোকে প্রার্থনা করে বা তার উপাসনা করে, সে কিন্তু আবার অ্যাথেনার করছে না, আবার যে অ্যাথেনার করছে সে আবার অ্যাপোলো করছে না। Do you get my point? What I'm saying, dear students?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Because you see, they have, I mean, their relationship is like it's based on envy and power crisis, power conflict. কে কার থেকে কত বেশি শক্তিশালী, কার কত বেশি অনুসারী, যে যত বেশি ভয়ঙ্কর এবং শক্তিশালী দেখা যায় তার অনুসারী সংখ্যা বেশি। বুঝা গেছে? তো তখন হয় কি যে ওই গডদের ভালো মন্দের বিষয়টা যার যার গড তার নিজের মতো করে কনসেপ্ট তৈরি করা। তখন হচ্ছে কি তার অনুসারীর কাছে তখন তার গড অনুযায়ী তার ভালো মন্দ, আর আরেকজনের দেবতার অনুসারীর কাছে তার ভালো মন্দের কনসেপ্ট আবার তার কাছে তার মতো। As a result, what is happening that you cannot come to a point where you can define what's good or bad. So there is no absolute definition of good or bad. It is completely relative. Understood? So when you say that যে ঈশ্বরের কাছে যেটা পছন্দের সেটাই ভালো এবং যেটা ঈশ্বরের কাছে অপছন্দের সেটাই খারাপ, এই কথা বলবার সাথে সাথে কিন্তু তুমি ট্র্যাপে পড়ে গেলে। এবং সক্রেটিস কিন্তু তোমাকে প্রশ্ন করে করে এই ট্র্যাপের মধ্যে নিয়ে যাবে। Then he will entrap you, and then he will confuse you, and then he will show you that you are an ignorant. Actually, you don't know anything, and then you will accept it. Yes, you're right, I don't know anything. Then now you tell no reason. Socrates will not give you the direct answer to all these questions. Rather, he will put you in such a dilemma from where you have to come out to yourself. কারণ উনি তোমাকে চিন্তা করার বিষয়টা তোমার মধ্যে প্রবেশ করিয়ে দিয়ে এরপরে উনি তোমার সাথে নেই। Now you keep thinking what could be the possible answer. কারণ এভাবেই নলেজটাকে জেনারেট করতে, একটা মানুষের মধ্যে নলেজ জেনারেট করবার যে স্পার্কটা, যে স্ফুলিঙ্গটা আমরা যেটাকে বলি, তিনি সেটাকে ইনফিউজ করতেন ইনটু দ্য মাইন্ড অফ দ্য পিপল, স্পেশালি অফ দ্য ইয়াং পিপল। তো আমি যেটা বলছিলাম যে এই সক্রেটিক ডায়ালেক্টিকটা বা সক্রেটিক আয়োডাটা একটু বোঝার জন্য তোমাদের বলছি। এটা অনেকগুলো লেয়ার বা স্টেজ আছে, আমরা আমাদের কোনো একটা লেকচারে ইনশাআল্লাহ আমরা এটা নিয়ে কথা বলবো। জাস্ট ফর ইউর বেসিক আন্ডারস্ট্যান্ডিং অফ সক্রেটিক ডায়ালগ, আই এম জাস্ট টেলিং দ্যাট হোয়াট ইজ হিজ মেথড। So you see, he will take you to at such a point through questioning, and he will ask you questions based on your answer. তুমি যে আনসার দিবে সেই আনসার বেস করে তোমাকে প্রশ্ন করবে। At one point you will find that তুমি যে আনসার দিবে সেটা সম্পূর্ণ ভুল একটা উত্তর, নিজেই তোমার নিজের ভুলটা বুঝতে পারবে। That is the fascinating part of this style, যে স্টাইলটা এরকম। So that's very interesting. লজিকের অংশটাই আসলে তার ধরে এভাবে শুরু হয় বা সেটা এস্টাবলিশড হয়। নাও আমি যেটা বললাম, তো যখন আমার আপেক্ষিক হয়ে যাচ্ছে দেবতার কারণে আমার সত্য মিথ্যার সংজ্ঞাটা, তো তখন আলটিমেটলি আমি যখন তোমাকে বলি যে তাহলে তুমি বলো এবার আমাকে, এখন যদি আবার প্রশ্ন দিতে তাহলে হোয়াট ইজ গুড আর হোয়াট ইজ ব্যাড, কারণ তুমি অলরেডি কনফিউজড হয়ে গেছো। তুমি তো দেখলে আসলে তো তাই, এক এক ঘরের কাছে এক এক সত্য, তাহলে কোনটা আসলে সত্যের সংজ্ঞা, কোনটা বা মিথ্যার সংজ্ঞা, কোনটা ভালোর সংজ্ঞা, কোনটা খারাপের সংজ্ঞা। এবার তুমি তখন চিন্তা করতে থাকবে, চিন্তা করতে করতে একসময় দেখবে যে আসলে দিস কনসেপ্ট অফ গড দ্যাট ইউ হ্যাভ ইন ইউর মাইন্ড, particularly I'm talking about at that time in Greece, many gods, these concepts of many gods, that is null and void, that is, it has been nullified by your own arguments. তুমি নিজেই আর্গুমেন্ট দিতে নিজেই বুঝতে পারছো যে তুমি এই প্রচলিত গ্রিসের যে ঈশ্বরের যে সংজ্ঞা, তুমি সেটাকে এখন নিজেই বুঝতে পারছো যে দিস ইজ নট ওয়ার্কিং। অর্থাৎ ঈশ্বরের সংজ্ঞাটাই এখন ঠিক, ঈশ্বর ঠিক নেই, ঈশ্বরের যে ভালো মন্দের সংজ্ঞা এখন ঠিক থাকছে। At this point Socrates will leave you and then you keep thinking, এবার তুমি তোমার উত্তর খুঁজে বের করো। আমি তোমাদের বোঝাতে পারছি?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Okay, so that is his method, that is his dialectical technique. Now, often he would question people's unwarranted confidence in the truth of popular opinions, but unusually without offering them any clear alternative teaching. Aristophanes portrayed Socrates as running a sophist school and accepting payment for teaching, but other sources explicitly deny this. So now here you see the thing I have already mentioned, that he would question people's unwarranted confidence. তুমি খুব কনফিডেন্টলি একটা জিনিসকে বিশ্বাস করছো, তোমার সত্য বলে যে জানছো, উনি সেইটার উপরে বেস করে প্রশ্ন করে তোমাকে এমন একটা জায়গায় নিয়ে যাবেন, এরপর থেকে তুমি নিজে এক্সপ্লোর করা শুরু করবে যে তোমার আগের জানাটা ভুল ছিল। But usually without offering them any clear alternative teaching. He will not provide you any alternative teaching. He will not give you any specific answer, and he will not help you to stamp out your confusion. তোমার কনফিউশনটা দূর করে দিতে উনি তোমাকে কিন্তু সরাসরি কোনো উত্তর দিবেন না, তুমি নিজেই এখন তোমার উত্তরটা খুঁজে পাবে বা তুমি নিতে পারবে। ওই স্টেজে তিনি তোমাকে ছেড়ে দিবেন এবং কোনো অল্টারনেটিভ কোনো উত্তর তোমাকে তিনি দিচ্ছেন না, যে না তুমি যেটা বলেছো প্রথমে সেটা ভুল, উত্তরটা হচ্ছে এইভাবে তিনি ডিকটেট করেন, তিনি বলেন না। Aristophanes portrays Socrates as running a sophist school. Aristophanes, a philosopher, he says that actually he took money from people for teaching, just like sophists. But other sources, they explicitly deny this. They say, no, Socrates never took money for teaching people. তিনি মানুষকে শিক্ষার জন্য শিক্ষা দিতেন, কিন্তু তখন তিনি এগুলো থেকে টাকা ইনকাম করতেন। একজন বলেছেন যে তিনি টাকা নিতেন, কিন্তু অধিকাংশ সোর্স সেটা ডিনাই করেছে যে Socrates actually he never took money for teaching people. Now this is another quotation by Socrates. It says that falling down is not a failure. Failure comes when you stay where you have fallen. Do you get the quotation? Do you get the meaning? What does it say? Falling down is not a failure. Failure comes when you stay where you have fallen.
Yes, sir.
That's the truth. যে পড়ে যাওয়াটাই ব্যর্থতা নয়, ব্যর্থতা কোনটা, যদি পড়ে যাওয়ার পরে যদি ওখানেই তুমি থমকে থাকো, that means you have to try. যেখানে আটকে গেছে, যেখানে থেমে গেছে, ওইখান থেকে আরেকটা জায়গায় সরে যেতে হবে, নতুন কিছু এক্সপ্লোর করার চেষ্টা করতে হবে। Then that we call it that is success, that is advancement or headway or progress. কিন্তু আমি যদি ওখানে আটকে থাকি, বলছেন যে ওটাই হচ্ছে ফেলিওর। পড়ে যাওয়াটা ফেলিওর না, বাধাগ্রস্ত হওয়াটাই ফেলিওর না। আমি যদি ওখানে থেমে যাই সেটা হচ্ছে ব্যর্থতা। Now, here he says, it says that, however, it more likely resulted from his self-appointed position as Athens' social and moral critic, and his insistence on trying to improve the Athenians' sense of justice, rather than upholding the status quo and accepting the development of immorality. His crime was probably merely that his paradoxical wisdom made several prominent Athenians look foolish in public. Now, this is very interesting. I told you that when you ask questions, if you ask questions people, and if you prove them that what they believe, that is unwarranted confidence, that means your confidence, it was never challenged. And you thought that that is the truth, that is the absolute truth. And when, because of his questioning and of his technique, when he proved that what you believed as an absolute truth, and when your confidence is completely torn apart or destroyed or demolished, how would you feel? If somebody completely destroys your confidence, how will you feel? কেমন লাগবে তোমার? কেউ তোমার জানা জিনিসটাকে ভুল প্রমাণিত করে যখন তোমাকে নির্বোধ প্রমাণ করে, তোমার খুব ভালো লাগবে, তাই না?
No, sir.
You will feel proud of yourself. নিজেকে নিয়ে গর্ববোধ করবে যে আমি একটা নির্বোধ।
No, sir.
No, sir.
It happened with some prominent Athenians. They are very, maybe they're statesmen or philosopher or very powerful people. So you ask them questions and they fall into the same trap. They fell into the same trap that was created by, Socrates. And then later on, when they found that what they knew, that was wrong, and they found themselves actually they are ignorant, foolish, and it was proven in public by Socrates. Now just think what could be the possible repercussion. If বাংলাটা ভুলে যাচ্ছে, মানে কি হতে পারে তার প্রতিক্রিয়াটা যখন বিখ্যাত ব্যক্তিদেরকেই তার প্রশ্ন করার মাধ্যমে যখন তাদেরকে বোকা প্রমাণিত করে ফেলে এবং তারা যখন আর উত্তর দিতে পারে না, তখন এই মানুষগুলোর অবস্থা কি হয় বোঝো? ভেতরে ভেতরে তারা এক ধরনের মানে জ্বলতে থাকে, তাই না? তাদের মধ্যে মেজাজ খারাপ হতে থাকে। বুঝতে পেরেছো কি বলছি?
Yes, sir.
তো ওনার এই প্যারাডক্সিক্যাল উইজডমের জন্য উনি অনেককে এরকম অবস্থা ফেলে দিচ্ছেন। এটাই তার জন্য অ্যাকচুয়ালি সবচেয়ে কাল হয়ে গেছিল, বিপদ হয়ে গেছিল, and that's why actually he had to die. Anyway, we'll come to that point later. But here you see, his self-appointed position as Athens' social and moral critic. So what he called himself, this time, তিনি নিজেকে কি বলতেন? তিনি বলতেন আমি social and moral critic. আমি সমাজ এবং নীতি নৈতিকের একজন সমালোচক. That's it, nothing else. And his insistence on trying to improve the Athenian sense of justice. He insisted that Athenian sense of justice, that is not okay, that is improper, inadequate, incomplete. So now he took the responsibility to complete it, because there were immorality all around, at that time in Athens. আসলে সিচুয়েশনটা এরকমই ছিল, সেখানে চারিদিকে ছিল অনৈতিকতা, অরাজকতা ছিল সেই সময় অ্যাথেন্সে, এবং সেগুলো দেখেই তার মনে হচ্ছে একটা সেন্স অফ জাস্টিস এস্টাবলিশ করতে হবে আমার অ্যাথেন্সে, এই সমাজে। And that's why he worked on this. Now, in the next slide, you can see the best known part of Socrates' life is his trial and execution. Despite claiming completely loyal to his city, Socrates' pursuit of virtue and his strict adherence to truth clashed with the course of Athenian politics and society. So you see, the best known part of Socrates' life is his trial and execution. Trial and execution means তার জীবনের সবচেয়ে গুরুত্বপূর্ণ বিষয় যে তার যখন বিচার করা হয়, তার যখন এক্সিকিউট করা হয়, তাকে যখন মেরে ফেলা হয়, এটা তার জীবনের অন্যতম অধ্যায়। মানে তাকে যদি আমরা বুঝতে চাই, জানতে চাই, despite claiming complete loyalty to his city, you see, he taught people. He also, he challenged people with their views and ideas, and he tried to, create something new. He tried to give them the idea that this is not the knowledge that you know. The real knowledge is something different. And he tried to make people to understand this. Okay, but it doesn't mean that he was creating anarchy in the society. It doesn't mean that he was in favor of chaos or disorder. Do you get my point, what I'm saying, dear students? Hello? Can you hear me?
Yes, sir.
You see, he loved knowledge, and he wanted to create new knowledge. He wanted to give knowledge, infuse the knowledge into the minds of the people. But it doesn't mean that he was against the society. It doesn't mean that he wanted to create disorder or chaos in the society. So he was loyal to his city. He was loyal to his country, because that was a city-state. That's why we are calling it city. But in present days, we would have called it, country. So he was loyal to his country or city. Socrates' pursuit of virtue and his strict adherence to truth clashed with the course of Athenian politics. The problem is that